If you don't think you're addicted, and I'm talking about anyone, from the highest to the lowest, if you don't think you're addicted, then see if you can turn it off for a week.
Yes, Denzel Washington. Yes, Denzel, yes, won a Tony Award for Best Actor for the 2010 Broadway revival of Fences, and we are so glad.
Race relationships have to do with race relationships. You're white or whatever you are, I'm black or whatever I am. We're standing here talking now.
Ever wonder why Hollywood's getting crazier by the day? Well, Denzel Washington's got something to say about it, and trust me, it's not what you'd expect from a big-time movie star. This guy's been in the game for decades, and he's not about to let some woke mob tell him how to think. He's taking on the entire industry, and you won't believe what's going down. Stick around, because this is gonna be good. Alright, let's talk about the man himself, Denzel Washington. This guy's story is like something out of a movie, except it's real life. He started out as a garbage man, can you believe it? Yeah, the same guy who's now one of Hollywood's biggest stars used to pick up trash for a living. But he didn't stay there. Nah, Denzel had bigger dreams, and he worked his butt off to make them happen. Now, in an industry where people change their opinions faster than their underwear, Denzel's known for something pretty rare. He actually means what he says. He's got this reputation for being straight up, no BS. When Denzel talks, people listen because they know he's not just spewing some PR-approved nonsense. And let me tell you, that doesn't always go over well in La La Land.
I know, you know, we all know what it is when a hot comb hits your hair on a Sunday morning, what it smells like. That's a cultural difference, not just a color difference.
Yes, Denzel Washington. Yes, Denzel, yes, won a Tony Award for Best Actor for the 2010 Broadway revival of Fences, and we are so glad.
I don't have to think about it. I've lived it. I've been the guy at the Oscars without my name being called.
While everyone else is busy trying to figure out what's trending on Twitter so they can jump on the bandwagon, Denzel's out here talking about personal responsibility and hard work. Can you imagine? A Hollywood star telling people they need to work hard instead of blaming others for their problems. It's like he's from another planet or something. There was this one time, right? Denzel was in a meeting with some big shot studio execs. They were trying to get him to do this movie that was basically just woke propaganda disguised as entertainment. You know the type. All message, no story. Well, Denzel wasn't having it. He stood up, looked these guys right in the eye and said, "I'm not here to preach, I'm here to tell stories. If you want a sermon, go to church." Boom. Just like that. Can you imagine the looks on their faces? But here's the thing, Denzel's not just talking the talk, he's walking the walk. He's got some pretty strong views on this whole woke culture thing that's taking over Hollywood. And trust me, it's not what you'd expect from a guy who's been in the business this long. You want to know what he thinks about all this misinformation flying around in the media? Here's what he said. If you don't read the newspaper, you're uninformed. If you do read it, you're misinformed. Let that sink in for a second. This is Denzel Washington, one of the biggest stars in Hollywood, basically calling out the entire media industry. That takes some serious guts. Speaking of guts, you know what else takes courage in Hollywood these days? Making a movie that's just a movie. No hidden agenda, no preaching, just good old-fashioned storytelling. Denzel's got something to say about that, and it's got the woke crowd fuming. Remember when movies were just movies? Yeah, me too, but these days it feels like every flick's gotta have some kind of message. Don't get me wrong, messages are great and all, but come on, sometimes I just want to watch stuff blow up without feeling like I'm back in school. So what happened? Well, this whole woke thing started creeping into Hollywood. Suddenly, every movie's got to tick all these boxes. Diversity quotas, political correctness, you name it. And sure, some of that stuff's important, but when it starts messing with the actual story, that's when we've got a problem. And guess what? Audiences aren't buying it. People are sick of being preached at when they're just trying to have a good time.
I've heard everything. And what I hear keeps changing. Because they used to say it didn't sell over here.
If you don't think you're addicted, and I'm talking about anyone, from the highest to the lowest, if you don't think you're addicted, then see if you can turn it off for a week. Scorsese probably could have done a good job with Schindler's List, but they're cultural differences.
Box office numbers are tanking for these preachy flicks. You've seen it, right? Remember that all-female Ghostbusters remake? Or how about The Last Jedi? Both got hammered by fans for pushing agendas over actual storytelling. It's not just regular folks getting fed up either. Some celebs are starting to speak out, and Denzel, he's leading the charge. He's got this crazy idea that movies should, entertain people. Wild, right? Now, Denzel's not against diversity or anything. He's all for it, but he's got this crazy notion that good storytelling should come first. Here's what he said: "I'm not here to preach. I'm here to tell stories. If you want a sermon, go to church." Boom, that's how you do it. Now, $50 million is a lot of dough to walk away from, but what if that's just the tip of the iceberg? Rumor has it there's a secret group of A-listers pooling their resources to fight back against woke culture, and you won't believe who's supposedly leading the charge. Looks like Hollywood's about to get a serious wake-up call. There's a growing movement of creators who are sick and tired of the woke agenda running the show. These folks are standing up and saying, enough is enough. They're not just grumbling in their trailers anymore. Nah, they're taking action, and it's got the big studios shaking in their overpriced boots.
The President of the United States can't legislate us into liking each other.
To act with great actors, Stephen Henderson and Miss Davis.
Yes, Viola Davis, yes.
Turn it off. That's what I would say. It's hard for young people now because they're hooked. They're addicted.
But it ain't easy being anti-woke in La La Land. These creators are facing some real challenges. We're talking canceled projects, blacklisting, the whole 9 yards. Remember James Woods? Dude's been in the game for decades, but suddenly he can't get a job. Why? Because he dared to speak his mind on social media. It's like the Hollywood Mafia's put out a hit on anyone who doesn't toe the party line. And it's not just the old guard getting hit. Up-and-coming directors and writers are finding their projects shelved if they don't tick all the right boxes. One minute they're the next big thing, the next they're persona non grata, all because they wanted to tell a story without cramming it full of political messaging. But here's where it gets interesting. These creators aren't just rolling over and playing dead. Nah, they're getting creative. We're seeing a rise in alternative platforms and funding methods. Crowdfunding campaigns for non-PC content are popping up left and right. It's like a whole underground railroad for movies that don't fit the woke agenda. And get this, there's talk that Denzel might be getting in on the action.
No, well, because we had done the play and we'd had success with the play.
Got it.
So I knew we could do it.
Then it does. Then it said it doesn't sell in the South. Then it does.
Race relationships have to do with race relationships. You're white or whatever you are, I'm black or whatever I am. We're standing here talking now.
Yeah, you heard that right. Word on the street is, he's not just talking the talk, he's walking the walk. There are whispers about a new production company he's starting up, one that's gonna focus on telling real stories, not just pushing agendas. Forget about Denzel's new company for a second. There's something way more explosive going on. Hollywood's facing an existential crisis, and it's got nothing to do with streaming wars or superhero fatigue. The real question is, can art survive in an industry that's terrified of offending anyone? It's not just about making movies anymore. This is a full-blown battle for free speech, and the stakes couldn't be higher. We're talking about the very soul of creativity here, folks. Hollywood's always been about pushing boundaries, right? But now, it's like they're scared of their own shadow. You've got artists being told what they can and can't say, scripts getting rewritten to avoid controversial topics. It's like there's this invisible force telling everyone to play it safe. And you know what happens when artists play it safe. Boring movies. That's what. Denzel Washington gets it. He's not just worried about his own career. He's looking at the bigger picture. He's saying, hey, we need all kinds of voices in this industry, not just the ones that make everyone feel warm and fuzzy. And he's right. Art's supposed to make you think, make you uncomfortable sometimes. That's how we grow, how we learn. But here's the kicker. If Hollywood keeps going down this road, we're looking at a future where every movie's the same. No edgy comedies, no hard-hitting dramas, just a bunch of sanitized, politically correct fluff that doesn't offend anyone, or entertain anyone, for that matter. Denzel's not taking this lying down. He's calling on other artists to stand up, to tell the stories that matter, even if they ruffle a few feathers. He's challenging Hollywood to embrace real diversity, not just in who's on screen, but in the ideas and perspectives being shared. He's saying it's not color, it's culture. And that's deep. It's not about ticking boxes or meeting quotas. It's about understanding the rich experiences that shape people's lives. That's where the real stories are. That's what makes art powerful. And then get this, Denzel's throwing down the gauntlet. He's challenging Hollywood to stop playing it safe and start embracing true diversity of thought. He's saying you can't legislate love. And he's right. You can't force people to like each other or understand each other. That comes from telling real, honest stories. And so where do we go from here? Are we gonna let Hollywood become a factory for bland, inoffensive content? Or are we gonna stand with Denzel and fight for real creativity, real diversity, real art?